I appreciate it. So yeah, those of you that don't know me, I'm Eric Lawson. I'm the Director of Tech and Libraries in New York. Oh, not loud enough. Thanks, Mike. But I'm here today to talk about the maker mindset. Hopefully it's advancing, because that seemed like more than 15 seconds. No? Maybe not? I don't think somebody hit play. Thanks a lot, setting me up.
I'm using the force. It's not on the screen.
Keep going.
Isn't this a touch screen though?
Left, down, play.
This is a touch screen, just touch it.
Touchscreen, you could just touch it.
Alright, so we have 15 seconds. As Andy said, I'm a Google certified trainer, innovator, and top contributor, but again, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the maker mindset, which I'm here to talk about. So let me virtually try and take you to our maker space, which is here. Alright, so at our elementary school, we had an old aging computer lab. Probably seems pretty familiar to you. We had devices that were twice as old as the kids that were in the building. So we decided, instead of just upgrading and doing what we always do, we're going to make this a fun, flexible, and interesting place. But if we were to do this again, we wouldn't focus on just the space. So if you don't have space in your schools, don't worry about it. It's more about the mindset. Growing that culture and growing that mindset is bigger than the physical spot. So we certainly are starting to get a little bit more creative, and we've decided to go on mobile maker carts. This allows us to prep a little bit better, so we have some teachers and we have some students who now have to plan out a little bit of what they're going to do, what the materials they're going to be doing for making, and then our facilitators can jack up these carts and virtually pull them anywhere. So if you heard about moonshot thinking, this is sort of Google's big thing, right? X, or the moonshot factories it once called, is all about reaching for the stars, right? And dreaming the impossible. Kids do this all the time. And the CEO, or captain of moonshots, Astro Teller here, he will talk about growing things bigger and bigger. You've heard of the self-driving car that Google has? So some of these moonshots come out and he knows that failure is expected. What's the true purpose is the grit and the determination to prototype, fail, prototype again. And this is all throughout Google, right? The CEO, Larry Page, often says if you're not doing some things that are crazy, you're not doing those things correctly, or you're not doing them right. And I think that's true. Sometimes in education, we think we can't possibly do that, but sometimes we also need to hear those ideas. Anybody know what this is? It's a little dark. Room of requirement, Hogwarts, right? If you think about it, it only appears when somebody needed it, and it's full of all the materials in it, right? It's exactly the magical makerspace. Now, we don't necessarily have magic in our lives, although I do. These are my two girls. But we do have magic in their creativity. And sometimes that creativity says things like a miniature golf course in my basement because it's raining and Dad can't go play. But what we've found, unfortunately, in education is that by about third grade, kids lose that creativity and it declines a little bit. They start to see school as more of a checklist of things to do, whether it's to achieve the standard, get the easy grade, or just to please the teacher. We've got to foster that creativity in kids. So you've heard of Dr. Carol Dweck's work on growth mind shift, right? So the mindset and understanding that you can put your mind to it and overcome adversity, embrace those challenges and work with it is exactly what we're trying to push in York with the maker mindset. And one thing I would like to push all over. John Hattie's research, the greatest effects on student learning occur when the teachers become learners of their own teaching and when students become their own teachers. Let me let that sit with you just for a second. And if you're not familiar with John Hattie's research on effect size, he does all of these standards and he's worked a great deal on effect, whether it's negative like television watching all the way to the top. Inevitably, every time, student visible learning rises to the top. Think about makerspace, think about prototyping in the process. That is visible learning. Google, are you familiar with the 20% time they gave employees 20% to work on passion projects? This is the best statistic out of all of them though. 50% of those products came from 20% time. Gmail came from 20% time. So we do need to incorporate this. Here's some other famous ones. You heard about the driving car. Project Loon is beaming Wi-Fi down to third world countries. Project Wing is sending packages all over the world. We had Tango come into our school last spring to talk about augmented reality in the classroom. It's just phenomenal where they're going. So a couple of quick books you want to learn about is Launch to get some design thinking, and also George Couros' book To Inspire Innovators Mindset, where he talks about developing not only problem solvers, but problem finders. Let's work on that. Let's make sure that we have kids finding those problems. So what if you asked your peers or other students in the school, what would you learn about if I gave you the time? What would you do? What would they say? You might find that that learning is actually better than the quote-unquote actual structured lesson. So we need to build in that time, right? 20% time, innovation time, get that design thinking so we can prototype, fail, prototype again. We need to host things like hackathons, genius hours, and include makerspace and maker mindset in our schools. And like Rushton's book, and unfortunately he's not here to hear this, but he talks about student choice and voice, where kids get to find their reason for doing something. Again, this is the maker mindset, right? They get to solve the problems and they get to build what they want to build. And it doesn't, you can't start early enough, right? Students come in creative. Hopefully we don't lose that by 3rd grade. Get them inspired, get them to dream big, and get them to understand that they can find the problems in our schools and help solve those with us as well. So I'll leave you with this last question and kind of challenge you to go back to your schools and think about the maker mindset. And let me ask you, what will you make today? Thank you.